You're listening to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. With me is Kevin Black and Steve Ianson. We're back in the studio, guys, for another episode. Welcome back.
I got lost on my way over here.
Yeah, it was
driving. I'm like, how do I get there again?
the roads weren't closed off for you, where you had to, carry all the equipment through the street.
It was
Forgot
weird.
to take off my shades, apparently.
Hey, listen, these lights are bright when
they
the
are.
fame,
I
right?
thought we were still outside in the sunshine.
It's so bright, you got to wear shades.
Wow, I don't
It's
know
your
how
aura.
I don't know how many people came up to you guys and said, "Hey, we saw you uptown during open streets for the couple of times." None.
None.
Steve, you're not that famous then.
No, I just don't go anywhere anymore.
Well,
no
there-
one said it to me either.
Well, I actually was approached by a few people. They're like, "Was that you in the
Ooh.
purple tent?" Like, yeah. Why didn't you come say hi? Like, we didn't want to be recorded. It's
Nobody
like,
did.
Nobody listens to us, so it's not like this is going out to anything.
And look at the fight I had with my friend Andrea there. She just would not come anywhere near. And afterwards, she said, I dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah. See.
Oh, well.
Well, we could get Amanda back, and she would, sit with us again. But I think we've exhausted the amount of topics we can get about Open Streets Kingsville 2021.
Oh my God, I'm so sick of talking about open streets. I mean, it's fantastic.
But it's over.
But
it's not over yet.
The
No, but we could
13th,
close the
right?
chapter on open streets.
Oh. Does that? But I'm still confused. So if we close the chapter on open streets, is the chapter opening?
Well, it could be. If you ask Sebastian, he would argue that.
He would. Smart kid.
Very smart.
Smart kid. Anyhow. So, there's a few things happening. Some council news. Kevin.
News.
In pursuit of the news. So I apologize. I'm delinquent with it being the end of summer, not having a whole lot of time to invest in researching town council. Although, as I understand, there was a subdivision up for deliberation at this
Should we talk? Okay, we can talk about, I guess, if you want, the 750 lot subdivision, or we could talk about the main item that was on the agenda.
What was the main item?
They're going to be buying 90 yards of Kingsville tartan fabric from Scotland so that they can create their own merchandise for the Highland Games. It's in 3 weights of material because you can't, like, the kilts are made from a different style
Correct,
of tartan fabric than the ties and sashes are. So they had, but you have to pre-order this. So they
90 yards?
90, yeah, I believe it was 90 yards.
90 linear yards.
I believe it was 90 yards. Like I know the total cost was around $3,000.
Okay.
And then they're going to get the group in Scotland to create the items for them. So the ties, the scarves, the sashes. Now, I mean, they were kind of worried about single sourcing this tartan purchase. But I mean, there's not a whole lot of tartan vendors, as they found out. So if you're wondering and hoping to be able to buy some official Kingsville tartan
Gear.
paraphernalia,
Merch.
Yeah. If you need to like redress your bagpipes, there will be some articles coming in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was a requirement. Is this something you've heard of before? Does Angus, Ontario, or Fergus, Ontario have Angus? That's the Scottish guy from Fergus.
Right. Now they
have to.
I would. I mean, if anyone's going to do it, it's Angus and Fergus, right? While he's eating haggis with any more us's on buses,
Drinking scotch.
Chasing his sheep.
Wow. Whoa. But yeah, they must have.
Don't make
to
fun
have.
of my joke.
Well, you're an Englishman. It just comes naturally. You can't say anything good about anybody else from the rest of the Commonwealth.
from the aisle.
Yeah. But yeah, they must all have their own tartan. And
it's actually registered. So the Kingsville tartan is a registered official tartan with the Official Tartan Registry Service of Scotland and the world.
Is that like registering a star?
I assume that's what it's called.
Is that like registering a star? You know how it's like, buy a star.
It was a very serious presentation.
I don't doubt it.
And I mean, watching it, I'm like, this is not this serious.
No.
I mean, really does. Okay. Joking aside, is there not something better we can do with council's time than getting them to approve the $3,000 purchase of Kingsville Tartan?
There's a lot of people who would agree with you, but I guess at the same token, it's becoming a big event again, the Highland Games, and it's a gimmicky thing. And $3,000, the grand scheme of things, is a drop in the hat. I mean, what are we spending on a train for a festival?
I don't know. Tesla. We're buying a Tesla.
Anyway, and then
Steve's Tesla.
What's put into Migration Festival, right? So
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of people, and I can understand why. What they would shake their heads at $3,000 for a Kingsville Tartan.
Well, okay, so hold on. But they are selling, yes, you're right. But they are selling the goods, and they're going to make, if they sell the amount that they're budgeting, they'll make $1,000. So it isn't actually a cost to the town. They're creating items to sell. If you are interested in purchasing a Kingsville Tartan kilt, they have to be special ordered. Sorry, Steve.
No, I'll hold on to it.
They have to be special ordered. So if you want, you can contact the Highland Games. They can help fit you for your official Kingsville Tartan, and then they'll place the order, and then it can come in with the larger swag Kingsville Tartan order from Scotland.
So you said they would sell it and make $1,000. Are we talking $1,000 on top of the $3,000 recouped? Or are we just talking making $1,000 so they're effectively out $2,000?
No, it's $1,000 profit.
I would assume there's a processing fee as well for the $3,000 into making the merch.
I think that's included.
Okay, no, I just want to be clear.
$3,000.
So at the end of the day, that we're not going to be out of pocket.
No, as long as they
anyone
sell
shaking their heads at this sheepishly is going to be
Really, in the end, just tried to work that in,
yeah,
didn't you?
so hard.
Oh, I was trying.
You did. You. That was a long way.
Yeah.
You got it, though.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it was the Chinese part of Scotland, because this sounds too cheap, right? This sounds way too cheap.
Hey, I mean, that's what they do, right? They have an whole woolen industry.
Well, yeah. Well, that's usually where the cheap merch comes from, is China, right? So anyway, if this is the deal we've got, and it's official in the Sacred Hall of Tartan, then great. But does that mean that every year we have to procure the tartan from the same tartanian? I don't know.
It may go to tender if other.
How? If they're the only official source, they've sole sourced it, right?
Right. So then, yeah, but someone else may jump on the bandwagon and decide, hey,
tender the $1,000 tartan.
I'm not saying anyone is. However,
like look at Bidwise
like anything,
and check out the tartan tender category.
Angus and Fergus.
You'll have local vendors competing for the Kingsville tartan because they're located in the town of Kingsville.
Once he's done sipping his Glenfiddich and his pint of Tennent's, he'll be right there.
I'm not even gonna do the accent because it's not right. It's not right.
Mm-mm.
Jack Morris has been suspended for doing things like that.
Yep.
So. Well, I don't want to get on that topic, Steve. Let's talk about how Kingsville's tartan.
We got lots more to talk about.
Yeah,
so Kingsville has approved in principle. So they reapproved the subdivision plan for the Valente subdivision.
Yep.
Which runs for between County Road 20 and County Road 50 between Cottage Grove and what's the name of the other one? Like where Dieppe is and all those. That's
Heritage.
It's got a name for that subdivision, right?
Dieppe subdivision.
Yep. Well, there's James.
James Normandy. Dieppe. Yeah. And my original stomping grounds.
So between those two.
Yep.
It is
I bought a house out there when Jen and I first.
But your original stomping grounds would be when you're just a wee laddie.
I gave you that one.
Unless you grew up in a field.
I did.
Okay. Anyway,
with the sheep and a tartan, because I'm Scottish. I'm not Scottish. So
a nice throw blanket.
Yes.
Which will be for sale. And it'll keep you very warm. It's with the heavier.
Is there any geese involved in this tartan?
There's no geese. It's blue, if you're wondering. It's blue and black. It interlays. It doesn't have the gold line. I forget what that means, but it's a blue and black kind of woven interlay. If my left hand was blue and my right hand was black, it would look like that.
Like plaid.
For everybody watching on YouTube right now, there's the visual.
Yeah, it's like
perfect.
It's like this.
Plaid fingers.
Yeah.
Okay. So 750
houses. So just to catch everyone up to speed, because this one's got a long history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Kingsville Reporter was even still around back then.
Boy, that was such a long time ago.
So long ago. So,
Ancient times.
Can't even remember that.
I don't even know what a newspaper is.
It originally went to council back in, I want to say 2014, 2013. And you may be surprised to hear this, it got turned down. Then they went to the OMB and the OMB was like, nope, that's okay. So then the OMB approved it. And then it came back to the town in 2018, but then the developer didn't bring it forward. So the actual development agreement lapsed. So it had to come back to council to be reapproved. Now, when they did the reapproval, they actually redesigned the initial layout of the subdivision. So there's a lot of semi-detached and townhomes. There are some single-family homes, but the majority of the units in it are semi-detached and townhomes. That's going to be built in a series of 15 phases.
15.
And they're going to begin at the south end at County Road 50.
Yeah.
And the road that's going to connect to County Road 20, the Seacliff, is not going to be built until the 5th phase. So they're actually going to build a substantial number of homes. And the way they're going to access it is through a side construction, temporary construction road, so that they don't have to access off 50. But they're going to initially build the Lake Drive connection, which is like the...
One of the offshoot roads.
Yeah,
from
off
Heritage.
of 50, yeah. And so you won't actually get access to it off of 50. You'll get access to it off of Lake Drive. And then it'll eventually connect to both subdivisions. So then it'll be like one cohesive development. Yeah. So they've redesigned some of the roads so that they aren't straight throughfares, so that they kind of cut down on the Woody Crest or on the
drag strip.
The drag strip.
Prince Albert.
Yeah. What's the one over in the Gulfview subdivision? That main one.
Oh, was that?
What is that?
Is that conservation?
Yeah. Like you just
straight through strip.
Basically a drag race.
But two stop signs, but
you don't need to stop. And the road
Some
is basically like funny car width. That's how I refer to it.
Fast and the Furious Kingsville.
Right. So
it's their 13th movie.
So the way that they've done it is it's still connected, but they aren't direct connections, and there's lots of kind of little twists and turns added in to slow the traffic down a bit. And they are going to have one park at the north end of it, and one substantial park at the south end. Like it's probably, I'm guessing, but it looks like 3 to 4 acres.
Wow.
It's big.
Wow.
And the parkland dedication for the development is actually 2.5 times more than what would initially be required. They're actually adding a bit so that the people on the developer on Cottage Grove is able to access some of that parkland dedication in return to be able to use some of his stormwater management capacity.
Which was, I was going to ask, like, development on the west side of Kingsville has been stifled because of infrastructure. So was any of that brought up during the meeting about water, sewer?
Well, that's what a lot of the work that's happening now is, right? So over the last year or so, they tore up Main Street to a lot of people's dismay. Don't know if you saw. And then they closed it again for some resurfacing when they had to apparently shut it down all the way to McCain, even though they were working on the bridge on Main Street.
Got to be sure.
You got to be sure. Yeah. You know, just in case someone needs to access the beer store, you got to tell them no. You can't.
No beer for you.
No beer for you. So they did a lot of that overcapacity stuff then. Yeah. There were a few questions from councillors. Kim DeYoung brought up wanted to see a connection for the Chrysler Greenway because it does go through the top end of that subdivision right at the roadway.
At In Cities. In
Cities, exactly. So
she's retired. No, she's retired. Jackie's retired.
Jackie's retired.
Jackie retired last year.
Yeah.
She's like 90. It's like that
Doesn't look it.
No, gosh, I surprised me. Anyway, they want the connection there,
And to run down to 50. So they want to be able to connect it to Heritage. So run it all the way down.
which is fair for C-Watts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the layout how they can kind of work that into the agreement, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room. It'd have to like be on a roadway type of thing, unless they do some more redesign. The other, and it was brought up by Tony Gaffin, was asking about affordable housing.
Sure.
Obviously, he brought up actually a topic that I know you're fond of, with the 900 square foot like bungalow style of home with the small lot parcels.
Exactly.
Robert Brown said that it would be something that's possible. Valente does have some experience doing affordable housing in other towns. They've worked with doing, and the term that the buzzwords weren't affordable, it was accessible housing.
Yes, that's the new one.
That's the new one. So while that's not in the plan, there is some talk of hoping to get that to entice the developer to build in that style in the future phases.
Yeah, but nothing's mandatory, so they don't have to.
Right.
Yeah. And if you're getting $9 million for a house, as we are right now, hey, market's cooled slightly.
Yeah.
Market's cooled slightly. So, yeah, they're not 900,000 anymore for single family homes. They're probably 7 or whatever have you for a brand new build. But, you know, if they're not incentivized in order to build accessible housing, then it's a tough sell. It's a tough economic.
Depending on what the market is. Like
Correct.
if there's demand, you know, people are just sitting in rentals and there's demand for that style of housing, which there's going to be. I mean, there's you know, a generation of people that are trying to buy a first home and they can't get the $200,000 down payment because they have to pay rent and you know, so
Bills.
Yeah, exactly. So there could be some market pressures to do it, but obviously government incentives would push a developer right away to do it, right?
Course. Yeah, but then that's a whole argument on its own, right? Is it the town's obligation to offset costs in order to facilitate a developer to rezone?
Yeah.
So
Another angle that I guess would look at is concerned, and I'm no engineer, and I'm sure it's all been studied, and like you mentioned, the stormwater and stuff. But I read an article a couple of years ago about the city of Houston, and people were saying, well, why is Houston always flooding? And they said, well, look what you used to have in Houston 20, 30 years ago. You had all this open land, arable land, treescapes, all this kind of stuff. So water was able to go places. Here we are, and yeah, they're putting in the stormwater, but you're taking good arable land and developing it. You're putting in more concrete, more cement, more homes in an area that in the past nearby has had severe flooding problems. So, and I'm not saying this is going to happen again. And like I say, I'm sure it's all been looked at. But just having read this article a couple of years ago on like large scale developments, I'm hoping that's not going to be a concern. But maybe down the line, you know, do you look at it and say, hey, this didn't happen until all these homes came?
So IRCA had some clauses in the approval. There was 4. A couple of them spoke specifically to floodplain issues.
Okay.
And those requests for design changes were updated to the latest plan. So they aren't based on that initial 2015 OMB approval. They're based on the current design. So
okay, good.
It has been looked at. Now, I mean, the whole other argument is whether or not the 1 in 100 year storm event quota, which a lot of stormwater has to be built to, is a real thing anymore. Because 1 in 100 years, if you're having that storm every other year, then it's not really 1 in 100 years anymore.
yeah, that clock keeps resetting.
We made that
Right.
argument last year when we had one that impacted our neighborhood. There were some homes nearby who had basement issues that had never had basement issues up until that point. And granted, they're only maybe 15 to 20-year-old homes. So you're still looking at maybe a 1 in 20 or 25, but that's still significantly less than 1 in 100. And if climate change is real, if climate change is real,
Yeah.
yeah. No, if
Yeah, it's hilarious.
you know, it's not going to be 1 in 100. It is going to be 1 in 25.
Yeah.
Well, 1 in 100 is now 1 in 5.
Okay.
It really it's not from an engineering standpoint. The official 1 in 100 term is still 1 in 100 years, but like in reality of the storms that we're receiving, the storms that are labeled as 1 in 100 year events are happening every 2 to 3 years. So the engineering community at some point will have to have a reckoning and decide, okay, what we've done is what our current standards are is probably not accurate. But then that brings into account so much other stuff, because then you're saying, okay, well now
okay.
imagine
He's A-okay.
No.
I don't know about AOK, ELK.
No, I meant Dave.
Yeah.
Dave's
I'm
A-okay.
okay.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
not.
Well, they need to update their infrastructure too. Like, how often does your power flicker? Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like, repeatedly. And we've had a couple of extensive power outages in our downtown core, which has caused revenue loss because of the inability to function as a business for a prolonged amount of time and whatnot. Yes, there are always grid problems. Yes, there are always things that cause power outages. It just seems that in Kingsville, it is a recurring event. So we even have to think about things like that, like the power grid, the sewer grid, the water grid, everything. When we expand, you overtax everything. And now there's not to get way off topic, but Ontario Hydro's facilitated greenhouses with the extent of the amount of power availability we have for those facilities. Like, we rival Hamilton with the amount of power availability in this part of southwestern Ontario. So what's happening to the smaller parts of the grid? And why aren't we updating that when we're just focusing on the transmission to bring it in? So,
it's different utilities.
Well,
that's the thing,
correct.
right? Like, it's so you're when you're talking about two different companies, the one company can't order another company to do work,
but the other one has to maintain their infrastructure,
right?
Especially when it's we're going to move on.
And
we're going to move on.
Unfortunately, it would be great if one of the towns that we lived in hadn't have sold their rights to. What did they use that money for again? It was $3.5 million, I think, at the time. They sold their portion of Elk for.
Was it a tartan? Was it the building? I don't know if it was the building. No, that was they sold years before that building.
Yeah, it was before that.
Yeah.
No, it was.
We did something.
Yeah. Oh, what was it?
It may have gone into reserve. It may have gone
We'll have
into
to bring
reserves.
this back. But that's the thing.
Next
It didn't go
edition.
into reserve. It went. There was I'm pretty sure there was a designated capital project.
They've
money
had
went
an
towards.
ELK reserve for years.
Yeah, but that wasn't the sale.
There's revenue gain, profit.
You know what? Maybe I'm completely wrong. We need.
We'll look into it. We'll come back to this.
Yeah, we do need to.
Yeah.
We do need to touch on it, because when the substation that Hydro One built out on Road 6 in Leamington is the size of the substation that handles the power for the city of Ottawa, and now that one's overtaxed, and they have to build another one that's going to be equal, like you said, to the amount of power that the city of Hamilton uses.
Yeah.
And you might remember the city of Hamilton had a booming foundry industry,
Steel.
like steel plants.
Yeah. A lot of power
A
consumption.
little bit of power.
A little bit. Smidgen.
The amount of electricity is being used in this area is out of control.
Well, it brings back the whole lights thing. Anyway, I want to remind everyone
Not out of control.
that-
It is in control, but.
That Kingsville podcast is proudly sponsored by the Kingsville Brewery. They want to remind you the heat's on and summer's not over yet. Celebrate Labor Day weekend with a visit to their beer garden. This week, they'll feature their newest release, Hard Iced Tea. Stop by and get it before they run out. Beer garden is open 11 to 8 Wednesday and Thursday, Friday 11 to 10 p.m., Saturday 11 to 11, and Sunday 11 to 6. Labor Day Monday, they're open 11 to 6 as well. And they've also want to remind everyone that the Czech Lager is now available at LCBO locations. And in order to celebrate that, there's a promo code if you go on the website, kingsvillebrewery.com. It's LCBO Lager, and you'll save $5 on a case of beer. So,
Ooh.
fancy.
Gary, we got to get this out before Labor Day.
Oh, he will.
L-
He's got quick turnaround.
What was that?
Oh, I know.
LCBO Lager.
Lager. LCBOLAGER at checkout, and you receive a $5 discount off a purchase of a case of Czech lager.
At checkout. Perfect.
Ba-dum-ching.
Rode my bike by there the other night.
Oh.
The lights were on. The lights weren't too bright.
Nope.
Not disturbing anyone. Just bright enough for a nice little ambiance.
Oh, it's a fantastic place. And I know they sponsor and it's great and whatever. But yeah, that is what the waterfront needs to kind of foster. That's what I want in Kingsville. The nice harbor, the gigantic piles of gravel.
Yeah, the gravel piles, the picturesque mountains.
But you can't really see them. You can't really see them from the beer
Like
garden.
limestone.
The road-facing veranda at the Grovedale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balcony, I mean.
It's not.
Beautiful.
Anyway, thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. We want to welcome Tara Hewitt, the Communications and Public Relations Coordinator from the town of Kingsville, to That Kingsville Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Tara.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's the Morning Zoo podcast here. You're probably having a pretty tired morning this morning.
Is it morning?
Today, this afternoon. Hey, time doesn't exist in podcasts, but
Oh my gosh. Is
Listen.
this like what happened? Did
Yeah.
I lose a day?
well, last night was the first true test of the emergency broadcast system for the town of Kingsville, and it worked flawlessly. No thanks to you?
Well, I mean, I might have had a hand in it.
A little
It
bit.
was, yeah, I mean, the emergency management software has been like with the town since 2017. And I think this is the first time, at least that I'm aware. I got to be honest, I did take a mat leave for a year. So maybe there was another time that it was used, but this is the first time to my recollection that it kind of went broadly out to the community. We've done more isolated blasts when it affects a very small core group.
I would say a full failure of the 911 system in the county is sufficient enough reason for a full-blown blast.
You know what? It was very concerning. And we did say, trust me, it was in my head. People are going to be upset. I've seen how people react to when those Amber Alerts cause their phones to go off with those alarms. I've heard the negativity for that time of the night to be woken and alerted to something that you don't have a lot of effect over. However, you just can't chance it when it comes to a 911 system failure. And if 1, 2, 3 people needed that information at that time, what are we going to do? We have to get that information out in a widespread way. So we did decide to use the Kingsville Alert system and also used our website and also used our social media platforms and just kind of spread the word as much as we possibly could.
I have to think, though, that the people who are complaining about it going off like that would be going even more berserk had they needed 911 and not been able to get through. And I think sometimes that people fail to look at the other side of the coin when it comes to, is it an inconvenience if you need sleep or you're having trouble sleeping? Of course it is, but it's even more of an inconvenience if you need to go to the hospital and 911's not working.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so essentially when it's not affecting that person, they've got this selfishness resort. But yeah, if somebody had cardiac arrest and couldn't get the help that they needed without that message, where else would we be? Like that's.
And the bottom line is we've had it since 2017, and this is the first disruption that people have experienced, really, right? Like, so it's not that we're using it willy-nilly. We would never use it for anything that was, not emergent. In some cases, people are going to expect to see it more for, tornadoes or we're evacuating or things to that extent. But I do think for 911, like you said, it's a real problem if you need it, right? Like I get that it's easy to kind of shirk off when you don't, but it's a real problem when you need it and you don't have that information. And if you don't, time is of the essence. So getting that information out was just imperative at that time, and we opted to use our emergency alert system to do that.
So what happens behind the scenes before that alert is sent out? How did that information kind of make its way around last night, and who makes the determination to send it out, and then who is the one that voices it to get it onto people's phones?
oh, come on, they're going to make me the most hated voice in Kingsville right now.
No, we'll take care of that ourselves.
So, in the case of last night, and it's we can speak kind of to the process of it, but again, this is really the first widespread alert that I've been part of sending out, but there are very few people who have been trained on using this system. Obviously, it's a very powerful communication tool, and we don't want a lot of people with access and a lot of mistakes that could potentially happen, and a lot of people getting woken up in the middle of the night needlessly. So we have myself as a member of our public works team, and then a member of our fire department that are trained on preparing messaging through that emergency notification system. And last night, the 911 information was kind of trickling down to our fire chief from his connections, and we started to see it pop up on social media as people started to alert their specific followings about, because there were so many different numbers floating around. I'm not sure if you noticed that. So the fire chief reached out to me. He called my cell phone. He said, I need to get some information out as soon as possible. Can you get it on our website, and can you get it over to our social media channels? And I asked if it was something that he wanted to be used in the Everbridge system, the Kingsville Alert system, and he said yes, it would be something that was that important. So at that point, I just composed the messaging, sent it over to him for approval, and then I put it up onto the notification system and blasted it out to everybody. And it was my voice recording on the first one, and then it was I think I just did like a text to speech on the second one. And it was just a matter of updating it after, because, at that point, 911 was working again. We didn't know how long it would be down for. We didn't realize it was going to be a pretty quick turnaround when they had resolved the issue. And even when it was resolved, we didn't know it was permanently resolved, right? We thought maybe there could be some trial and error going on where it was working and then it wasn't working. So that's kind of the process of last night. But we, like I said, the most we've used the system in the past is really, our public works department might have a severe water main break that's going to very much impact an entire street of people. For example, maybe they lose water for 2 days. So if you're going to lose your water service for 2 days, it's unexpected. We didn't have time to notify people. We want to make sure that they are kept updated on the process. They would send me sort of a map of the area that's impacted, and we would send the messaging out in the same way. And people sign up for this. We did automatically sign residents up when it was first put through in 2017, just to get them in the system, because it's, building a database. But we did a big communications push to get people to put their preferred communication pathway into the system, update their own contact details. So if we have your phone number for your landline, but you want to receive text, you can receive text. If you want to receive emails, you can receive emails. And then there's also like just cell phone calls. It's basically like any way we can reach you that you prefer. Put it in there, update your contact details on our Kingsville Alerts page, and that's what you'll get from now on in the event of emergency, which, like I said, between 2017 and 2021 has been used in a widespread way once.
And I think, Tara, it's important to mention, too, because I have looked into the legislation on this a little bit, that municipal governments are fully in their right to add people's contact information into a database as long as it's being used for emergency response reasons. It's because a lot of people immediately think, oh, the legislation against spam, and they shouldn't be able to do that. But one of the exemptions, and that's called CASL. So one of the exemptions to the CASL rule is around emergency response, and it gives federal, provincial, and municipal governments the ability to do it. And the perfect example is Amber Alerts. And it's the reason why your phone number has been automatically signed up to receive Amber Alerts on your phone. You didn't have a choice. And so it's the same legislation that gives municipalities the right to send out these emergency broadcasts.
And it is important to acknowledge as well that we do have two separate subscribed situations going on. We have that Kingsville Alerts, which is used in a very either targeted way to advise of emergent or severe situations, or a widespread way to advise of like very emergent situations that apply to everybody. And then we also have our news portal through the town, which has, recreation updates, tourism and events, community news, mayor and council, and also planning notifications. Those you have to willingly subscribe for. We can't just sign you up for that. And, you're not going to get a 1:00 in the morning alert about a recreational program cancellation. So that is just something that is separate from the Kingsville alert. But I do believe that people get.
Oh my God, would that suck?
Well, actually, I was going to ask, now that the chief has seen how effective it can be, is he going to use it to promote Firefest this coming weekend?
Yeah.
T-4 days for Firefest, folks. Not Ja Rule Firefest, not Box Lunch Firefest, Kingsville Firefest. Tara.
No FEMA tents. No FEMA tents at this one, right?
Tara, explain to us in detail how this is the better Firefest, that no one's going to get stranded on a Bahamian. Perfect segue, Steve. Smooth. Did you do radio?
No.
Yeah.
So, Firefest, Tara.
I guess you're not going to get stranded on a desert island or starve to death or I don't even know all the terrible things that happen there. I know I watched the documentary, and there's some things that are probably not appropriate to mention.
None of those here. None of them here.
Exactly. No, this is a celebration of our fire department. It's a celebration of our community, and it's a celebration of the history of this department. And we're going to see some vintage fire trucks. We're going to see some new fire trucks. They keep calling it apparatus. So it's going to kind of, I don't know what the entire convoy is going to entail, but the 2 vehicles that they brought on like this week for a little bit of a sneak peek for media, they were really cool vintage, fire engine red vehicles. And I think the kids are really going to enjoy it. And I think that my feeling from the community is that it's just like people are ready for this. They're excited to kind of get together in a very safe outdoors way and, celebrate this group of people who were pretty like selfless. You look at what happened in Wheatley, and the people are evacuating, people are running away, and you've got these fire personnel running in, and that's the same with our Kingsville Fire Department. It's been a really rough couple of years.
So Tara, take us through the itinerary for the day. When is Firefest starting, and what's happening, and where can people participate?
It's going to start with a pancake breakfast. The pancake breakfast happens at Ridgeview Park Pavilion. It's going to be hosted by our North Fire Station, and that's at 8 a.m. till about 10:30. And that just will occur before the fire truck convoy leaves. The convoy will leave from the North Fire Station. They're going to head to County Road 27, south on 27. They're going to turn left on County Road 34, head all the way to Division, and then they're going straight down Division until they get to the South Fire Station, at which point they'll start like a slow roll to Main Street. And when they get to Main Street, it's going to be like all the vehicles will end up getting parked and staged on Main Street, and they will stay on Main Street until 3 p.m. So people can get a closer look at the vehicles, take some pictures, and just kind of look at the neat detail on each of these rigs.
Just so people are clear, the North Station is in Cottam.
That's
just
correct. It's 124 Fox
I don't
Street.
exactly. Yeah, there we go.
A lot of people do confuse it with the one on Division, but no, North is.
Well, we have 2 stations.
Yeah, because I think the South Fire Station is on Division Road North, so maybe.
Is that like open streets?
Actually, Division Street
open
North.
Streets. Listen, I heard that podcast, and the whole time I was like, it's called Open Streets because we're opening it to pedestrians. I'm like yelling at my
yourself.
Alexa.
You were yelling at yourself. You're yelling at us, but
but we weren't there.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear me.
So yeah, then the streets close for one of the last remaining open streets events for the year, and then
and then open streets will continue after that. Yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Great.
It's going to be a good day, a good night, and hope to see a lot of people out.
I'm fired up.
Oh gosh.
Oh
No.
There we go. Where's the
Town's going to be hot.
Sound effect.
No.
Um,
No.
It's gonna be a smoking day.
Oh, no.
Any more, Steve?
You're really pumping it. Like, really pumping it.
no, guys, no.
I can't do it.
Somebody rescue the
I
podcast.
can't do it. I can't do it. Sarah, thank you for joining us on That Kingsville Podcast at such a short notice. We appreciate your time. And see, applause. That's all 4 of our listeners applauding all at once. Yeah, no, very
All right,
informative.
thanks everyone's mom for the applause.
How did you know? We pay her. We pay them. We pay them.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. So not exactly a Kingsville specific topic, but a more countrywide topic. The federal election has been declared last week. It was last week.
No.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
weeks ago.
God, time just doesn't.
Two
I know.
Sundays ago,
Yeah,
wasn't
time
it?
The
just doesn't-
20th? The
Yeah.
20th of September?
20th of September. Yes.
that right? Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So we've got our candidates again. We've got incumbent Chris Lewis running for the Conservatives. Tracy Ramsey is also running for the NDP. Audrey Festeriga for the Liberals. And I apologize.
There's a Green Party candidate, and there's a.
Valet? Is it Valet?
I don't
That's
know.
We should have done some
That's
research on
Leamington?
this.
Leamington.
Oh, I feel bad now.
Yeah.
Liz Valet. Yeah, well, we work in Leamington. That's why you see,
Yeah.
see the signs. And it's purple.
Yeah, it's purple.
Yeah, it's
They
purple.
stand out. As Steve frantically looks it up.
No, I'm not frantic about it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see if I can. You guys
Do we
can
know
keep
if we
talking.
have any Marxist-Leninists this time?
I wouldn't. I would venture. There's probably one. Or usually there's the Rhinoceros Party too in Windsor. I don't know. Are they the animals? I have no idea.
I assume there was a libertarian gentleman that used to run in like every election in the Essex riding. I forget his name now, but he was he kept giving it the old college try.
Yeah, well, yeah, somebody's got to come in last, right? So just see who it is. Right?
Oh, yeah. James Ray is the Rhinoceros Party candidate.
That's up in Windsor.
For Essex? Oh,
What do you get when you cross a rhinoceros and an elephant? LFI? No.
That was a full-blown joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Okay. So here we are. So we can be more accurate now. Chris Lewis, the incumbent for the Conservative Party. Tracy Ramsey is the NDP candidate. Audrey Festeriga for the Liberal Party. Nancy, and I'm sorry if I butcher your last name, Nancy Pancheshan for the Green Party, and Beth Sharon Roberry for the People's Party of Canada are the 5 listed candidates.
Yeah, that are on the ballot for this riding.
Correct.
So Windsor.
so far. Is the registration deadline passed yet?
I would assume.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's,
think so, right?
Yeah,
It's less than 3 weeks away, right?
Yeah, it's
So-
got to be.
So a little bit of campaigning going on, a little bit of national level stuff where the party leaders are being on site and doing public events. So
I'm really disappointed on how nasty things have gone.
it went fast. too.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I have my political views, and there are certain aspects amongst all parties I like and parties I don't like. But I am not going to stand there and ostracize a candidate or condemn them or certainly throw some of these horrible insults their way. Just, you don't have to like them, but come on.
Yeah, but it's easy in this day and age, right? With everything that happened over COVID, it is an incredibly easy platform to just launch the opposition of whatever went wrong.
No, but it's the hate and vitriol that's come out,
Correct.
and it's awful.
That's the compounding factor. Right now, you're actually tying. Well, which is why, like with local politics, why I've said I will never run for town council because of the way that now it's a personal issue, where you can be personally attacked for things that you're trying to do for the betterment of the community.
I do think that though the Trudeau hate was there before COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a spinoff from some of the Trumpian stuff that was happening with the Conservative Party previously, right? And then COVID just kind of gave more fuel to the fire and sort of fanned the flames, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. Hate Trudeau if you want. You don't have to like his policies. You don't have to like what he stands for. You don't have to like the way he looks.
Yeah.
But my goodness, like
Don't
the stories that are coming out.
Don't physically try to attack him at an appearance.
Well, the thing
Don't
is,
harass him.
But and you're
Exactly.
just making yourself look
there's a fine line between
inhumane.
like the art and right of the protest is a democratic right, but when it starts to spill into intimidation and assaults, then it becomes far more than just a protest. And I think that people have lost sight of the fact that if you're protesting with the sole hope of intimidating people, not getting a message across, but intimidation, that's undemocratic, extremely undemocratic. And it has been nice to see the other party leaders come out in support of the Liberals to say, you know what, this can't happen. And there was some media reports that a lot of what was happening, especially in Ontario, was a traveling group of protesters going from spot to spot to spot.
I wonder how they convene or how they know where to go next.
I know, if only there wasn't some platform that allowed for people to converse en masse in a social way, like some form of people-run social style
Group
of media
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy.
So it's the thing is, it's you can have your beliefs, and you can be passionate about your beliefs, and you can vote the way that you believe. But when you cross the line from polite, introspective, sometimes heated discussion into verbal assaults, sometimes physical assaults, like ripping the mask off a person's face is a physical assault on that person. If you are actively trying to prevent a person from going somewhere that they want to go, that is a physical assault on that person. So when you're starting to venture into that territory, you're doing something wrong. You've made bad choices.
Yeah, we're losing our moral compass.
Exactly.
And the decorum of society. Right?
It's disgusting.
It's horrible,
disgusting.
Right. And us as Canadians being the polite society that we've been for, I don't know, 200 some odd years.
Or thought we had been.
Yeah.
Thought we had been. Right. And that's the problem. This election cycle, compounding on COVID, compounding on some of the issues that had happened at the adjacent country, compounding on some socioeconomic problems, have just stressed some people to the point where they think that this is an acceptable practice. Intimidation is never acceptable, especially in a democratic process like an election. I know for a fact the three of us have completely different views on several different subjects, and that's what makes us great. That's why we can have conversations.
Right.
That's why we have the society that we have. But at the point when I or you start to intimidate me into feeling the way that you feel and forcing that upon me, then the floor is not evil or even. It's tilting towards a very bad place.
And focusing, I guess, more strictly on the election here. And I'm not going to pump Trudeau's tires because he's by no means done everything right. But I want to hear what the other leaders would have done in certain situations, and none of them have really come out and said anything.
They don't have to.
No, they don't. I get that. You can say that, yeah, Trudeau's done this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But anytime any of them are pressed on, well, what would you have done different? Nobody's got a good answer. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, that's not the right answer. That's not the right answer. You don't have an answer. You don't. And so again, Canadian democracy, we don't elect our leader per se directly, obviously.
Right.
We've got to go for the best, who we feel is the best candidate to represent us.
Right.
And I like this democracy. I really do.
Sorry.
No. That's okay.
He's trying.
We should edit that.
He's trying.
No, but again, we're going back to the loss of, we're losing that great democracy. You know, the last U.S. election, I heard it several times referred to the Americans, the greatest democracy in the world. Well, you know, you can make a case that the Electoral College isn't, and you can make a case that maybe Canadians isn't. But right now, we are destroying what many feel is the best democracy in the world, and it's sad to see.
Well, what's going to throw all of those protesters for an unbelievable loop is the fact that Justin Trudeau does not need to dissolve the government. He's not required to dissolve government. If he can form government And even if he's doesn't take the majority of seats or even a minority of seats, if the NDP agree to forming a coalition government together, Justin Trudeau or Jagmeet Singh could be the PM, even if the Conservatives have more MPs. And there will, if that was to happen, which it has happened in Canada's history, people will go nuts that it's undemocratic. And it is specifically how our system is designed. We're based on the British parliamentary system. It happens, as Steve, you can attest, there all the time.
Because he's British.
Because he's British.
And he talks about British. I was never.
He talks about Britain all the time.
Well, I'm the Scotsman
He's
at the
literally
table.
wearing a Man U shirt.
Well, Ronaldo's back.
I hope that our local candidates in this race don't have the same pressures that the party leaders do. Right? It's not fair to our local candidates to suffer some of that retaliatory or aggressiveness towards them. Again, I think on the bottom line, all of the candidates are trying to work towards the betterment of what their party's direction is for the local area, which is, again, why we elect our local representation. So I'm hopeful that we don't see anything about a rally in Windsor or in Essex or Amherstburg or Kingsville and witness any kind of action like that, because it's not fair to our local candidates, right? No. Right, wrong, indifferent, whatever party you vote for, vote. And I hate it every vote cycle when everybody, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. Well, you know what? If everybody thought that way, the electoral process wouldn't be successful anyway. And yeah, the numbers each year, whenever the elections come out and you look at it and you're like, well, what was everyone else doing? If everyone's got this opinion, vote.
Things are heating up because voter cards went out in Amherstburg today.
How was that today, Steve?
Oh my gosh, that was hard. That was a long day for letter carriers.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do too much because I was starting and doing a different position at the start of the day, so then I can go out and if I want, go deliver some mail. And I took part of her out today, but even that took a long time. But no, because the voter cards, they're just thin pieces of cardboard and they're going to pretty much every house, and many houses have multiple. So it took a long time for carriers to prep and then get out, and it was a long day. But you know what? We all understand why. There were no complaints. That was the other part of it too, is everyone understands what's going on. So
yeah, it's not a whole bunch of giant tiger flyers.
No.
Right? I'm sure you love those, but
so if it was hot out, would you only deliver three routes of those, or
everything went out today?
Everything went out today.
Everything went out.
It wasn't too warm.
Great job, Canada Post. But so the riding in our area was conservative for a long time, then flopped to NDP, and then went back to conservative.
It was liberal.
It was liberal for a long time.
Susan Whalen was the MP, and then Jeff Watson.
Right.
I think he won 4 or 5 consecutive.
Yeah. So
and then Tracy won a term. And
we've
then Chris.
seen the major colors down here. It's not been just single colored like some ridings in Toronto or London. For history, have always been red or blue or whatever.
Well, what people in Kingsville should understand is that Kingsville, a lot of times in the Essex riding, decides the winner, because the way the votes generally shake out is that NDP usually get a lot of Bell River votes, a lot of conservative votes go in Essex, and then Kingsville, whichever way Kingsville tends to lean, ends up being usually the town that ends up electing the MP.
What else is interesting about Essex is that we're not influenced by any of our neighboring ridings. I mean, we could be totally different to what Windsor has. Windsor has a Liberal MP and an NDP MP.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
Brian and
Kuzmarek and Eric. Yeah. And then Chatham-Kent
is
Dave Epp,
yes.
as a
He's
conservative.
blue.
So we've got a real mixed bag down here.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the climate and the local area and what our issues are and how the local candidates campaign. Like that's something, honestly, that I haven't seen in the past 2 weeks. none of our local candidates. I haven't seen anything about their platforms in order to.
Well, honestly, it's funny you say that, because I was having a conversation with someone the other day. How do you get, and this could be a whole podcast topic, but in an election, how do you get that information out now? Because people don't consume the media the same way.
We have an open chair in the pod.
There you are. I mean,
We need 5 open chairs.
Yeah, I mean,
We would.
yeah.
We could hold our own little town hall.
Yeah.
Would
There we go.
we be over the limit of people?
Under 100 if we're outdoors. We could do it at a pavilion. No, that's indoors. I don't know.
Oh, I was just thinking just doing a recording with them.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
have
we
them
could
all
do
in
that.
for recording. I don't
We could do
want an
that.
audience. I'm scared of
Oh,
audiences.
I don't know national politics.
No, I don't want to.
I don't want to either.
Oh, I don't like it.
Oh, why you gotta make me do homework?
Okay, good luck to
Steve?
them all then.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly to your point. I think that's the difficult thing. How do you get your message out other than mailers or doing local news? But they have to have equal time.
You know, part of living in a democracy is the expectation that you will do some research to have an informed opinion on your vote, and that's how a democracy works properly. And really, the onus is on the voter to go and find the information and do the research, and not just listen to the stuff that you're spoon fed. Go find it out
And vote.
And vote.
And actually vote. Take the time. Employers give you the time in order to go cast your ballot. Ballot locations are open. There's mail-in ballots. There's opportunity for anyone, way, shape, or form, as long as you're a registered voter, in order to cast your vote. So there's no excuses. Everyone who is should. And then we'll see what this cycle comes out. You know, Trudeau's been in power for 3 years.
no longer.
Was it?
He did a full term, didn't he?
He did.
And then
he did a full term, and then
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see if that continues on, if there's a collation, if there's a change. But we won't know if you don't vote. So
Polls are looking close.
polls are looking close, and it'll be an interesting 3 weeks to see what happens. Maybe we'll have a recap right before the election, because it'll be getting close. So we'll see.
Maybe we should do a live election live stream.
Oh,
I'll
God.
get pizza.
It is the worst. Do you remember watching those on City TV?
Man, I was on them.
You weren't.
I didn't watch them. Let me tell you, nothing tastes yummier than election night pizza, like 10 p.m. when you're filing your story after you're at the losers campaign hall and everyone's crying and you're like,
Oh, it's the
I've been
worst.
to a few victory parties over the years.
I always ended up at the loser.
Maybe that's because you're
Well, I know
producer
where I'm
new.
going to send you then.
and on that
And
note,
on that note,
thanks for listening to That Kingsville Podcast. We want to remind you guys to subscribe, because I don't want to do my full-time job forever, and the only way we're going to be like that famous is if you subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Deezer, whichever way, shape, or form you're getting this podcast, please just subscribe. Again, thank you to Kingsville Brewery for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Cheers to the everyday adventure. We'll see you next time.